Hello, it's Saturday the 13th of February. Just a quick update. I've had quite a few questions come in this week. I thought we'd answer the questions first and then I'll give you a quick look around the greenhouse. And as I did promise, when I got new lights I would show you. Well, I got them yesterday, put a couple of them on Facebook last night, but I'll show you those as well. And then I'll possibly come back in tonight when they're switched on and we'll have a look just how they perform. A few questions that's come in. First of all, there's somebody beyond saying he's managing to get hold of most products but he can't get Signum. Signum is a commercial fungicide. It's only obtainable in large quantities. Anybody struggling to get most of this type of stuff, if they get in touch with John Peace through Facebook, he'll be able to fix them up. John is good. He's in Blackhall. So that's the Signum one. I've been asked a few times about potting leeks on. You know, when should you be potting on? How do you pot them on? Basically, I pot on roughly every 6 weeks, if I have space in the greenhouse, obviously. But I would like to pot on every 6 weeks, and that way you've got fresh compost all the time. As I'm potting on, obviously I don't break the first root ball, so if they're in a 3-inch pot, I would move up to a 5-inch, using possibly the same compost or a mixture of John Innes and multi-purpose. It's entirely up to yourself. That's introducing soil-based if you put into the John Innes. When you pot on, keep the root ball whole, and all I would do is the empty pot that you knock off the leek, I would sit inside the 5-inch pot and then fill in around it, just gently with your fingers. I don't use a thumb to press in hard. Maybe even just give it a tap on the bench. Then you can lift the pot out and you've got the exact size. You can just drop your new leek in. So it's basically sat on top of the compost all the time. My leeks are roughly a 1/4 of an inch into the soil. That's the actual barrel of the plant, and then it's all root that fills the pot. If you sink them an inch down, you've only got 3/4 of a pot of root. So basically you want them as near the top of the pot as possible. And never overfill your pots, because a lot of people have a habit of filling the pot right at the top. When it comes to water, you can't get the amount of water in that you need to fulfill that plant. And another question was about watering, so I'll come on to that one. If you leave a 1/4 of an inch at the top of everything, or if you're filling the pot to the lip, there's usually a lip on most plastic pots, the volume of water that's in the top from where that lip is enough to water the full contents of the pot beneath. How often do you water? It's difficult for me to tell somebody how often to water in their greenhouse. I water possibly heavily once a week, I would say, but I water properly. I make sure that the place is well watered once a week, and then all I do is check individuals. Basically anything in a cell needs to be watered more often, probably every other day. Anything in a 3-inch pot, possibly once a week. Once you move up into larger pots, it depends upon what weather conditions we have, whether the sun's out all the time, whether the temperature's high in your greenhouse or low. But it's difficult. If you just pick your pot up, feel the weight of it, and if it's heavy, it doesn't need to be watered. If it's very light, it obviously needs water. Do I water from the top to the bottom? The amount of leeks that I grow, I water with a hose pipe. Sometimes a watering can if I only need a few, but when I'm watering on a heavy situation, I water over the top with the rows on. Once I start potting on, I'll show you in a minute, I start getting moved up, I put mine into saucers and I water from the bottom upwards. So that's the watering. Someone's asked about size pots in the trench, so growing in pots throughout the season. Basically you can grow in a plant pot. I would suggest a 40-litre pot, and I'll revert back to Peter Kerry when he tried to break the world record last year. He had leeks 26 inches around and they were in 40-litre pots, 43 litre to be precise. His were in Humax compost. I think it had humate added, and he did feed on every particular watering. Mine are bottomless pots. They are small barrels, they're 30-gallon barrels cut in half, so they hold approximately 40 to 45 litres of compost. They are sunk into my trench about 4 inches deep, so they're obviously bottomless, and the roots grow down through those and into the trench as well. I don't grow in them every year, but I have done for a lot of years, to be honest. I keep on switching around. Size pots, how often do we spray the leeks? I've seen a couple of posts on Facebook this week where people have had infection with thrips. Also, there was quite a bit of virus on, which people get mixed up with, thinking that the virus is actually thrip. It depends on the leek you've got and whether they've had lights or not. However, spraying, I do spray once a month with a fungicide, which is Signum, or Rovril. I do use Rovril as well. And I do spray once a month with either Conserve or Dynamic. Now people say spray every 7 days. You're not meant to be spraying that often. Only time I would spray 7-day intervals would be if I had a bad infestation of thrip and I need to get on top of it, because obviously the eggs can hatch out within a short space. So I normally spray the end of every month with one and the middle of the month with the other. So I'm spraying the fungicide and then alternate with an insecticide. I've had a couple of questions about how much light should the people give leeks. To be honest, I know I've just put a range of new lights up. It's slightly different. I'm not looking to push size on my leeks with the lights, but the lights will do that. I like to let a leek grow as natural as possible. If it's got virus, you will need to give it leek to carry through the dull stages that we have, mainly December and January. Once we get into February, and you'll see in a moment when I show you around the greenhouse, the sun's just starting to rise in the sky. Not that we've had much this winter, it's been terrible, but it's now just peeping over the top of my house. There's no sun today. We did have earlier on, but I've noticed that the sun is now hitting the benches where the leeks are on, and what a difference it's made in just 1 week. A good friend of mine was in. He's a good grower. He comes each week. He was here last week, and we social distance. He was here last week, and he had a look, and yeah, he didn't pass much comment. He come this week. He says, "Blinking heck, what have you done to your leeks?" He says, "They look much better than last week. The colours come into them. They're all stood up well." It's because they've had sunshine this week. We've had a lot of snow, but during the day it's been very calm, and we've had quite a bit of sunshine, and it's just peeping over the top of my house, which is actually allowing light into the greenhouse, so it's made a massive difference. The only way I use grow lights is if I've got a virus in a plant and I want to bring it through that, or in the small stages. I do post a lot out, as you know. I can hold in another greenhouse and the plants just remain very small. A week before I'm ready to post, I bring them in, put them under the lights, I give them a week on lights, which boosts them to a good size, and I end up with very nice plants for posting. So that's the main reason I use lights. I am doing a talk on leeks for the National Veg Society. I think it's going to be one of these Zoom meetings. I've never done one before, but that's coming up in the next fortnight, I believe. I think it'll be a Tuesday evening. Log into that, and I'm going to show you. I'll do a small presentation, which possibly an hour's talk, and it'll go through the full system and show you exactly, you know, how to do things. What I do with mine, anyway. It'll certainly help the newcomers. That's going to be in a couple of weeks' time. How often to water? I've covered that one. I've had a lot of questions. When should I be putting a collar on the blanch leeks? My blanch leeks are still very small at the minute. I don't want big ones. I could have big ones. You know, I've got the light. I've set early and I've posted out early. I've kept very little back off the early settings. I have kept blanch leeks back off the later set. Now I'll show you the difference, but if you tune in to the YouTube talk, but not the YouTube talk, the Zoom talk that I'm doing, I'll show exactly how to blanch at the time to blanch, what I feel is right anyway, and you'll see what I end up planting out, the length that, you know, my leeks can go out to 12 to 14 inches long from a pot into the garden. So I always wait until almost as thick as my little finger before I put collars on. I've also been asked a question, should I start to feed the leeks? If you're potting on a regular basis in the greenhouse, you'll not need to feed your leeks. The compost should see you through certainly 5 weeks and keep the plant happy for that 5 weeks. A lot of people are looking to push plants, you know, to a large size before planting. Yes, if you want to do that, if you're looking for the bulk rather than the quality, certainly you can feed if you want to. What do I feed and how often? I don't feed, but if I was going to, I would probably use Maxi Crop as a first choice feed. It's not really a feed, it's more a stimulant for the plants, but it will help them, you know, on that journey. They will look good through it because there's plenty of trace elements and everything in there. The Chemac are very good. If I was going to feed, I do use commercial feeds on the hanging baskets and things. I would probably just use one of my commercial feeds. But as I say, I tend not to. The only time I would feed is if I've had plants on hold in the cells. I bring them in to put them onto the lights. They're starved because there's nothing left in the small cell after a week or two. I would give a feed as I put the plants onto the lights, and I would possibly give a Chemac number 2 feed if they were already well rooted. If not, I would give a number 3, a balanced feed. and I would do that certainly as I place them under the lights, give them a good soaking with that. But once they come out of there and go into a pot, I wouldn't feed until, if they'd been in a pot more than 6 weeks, certainly I would feed. That covers more or less the questions. I'm going to show you around the greenhouse now. We'll lift this down. I'll turn this around. Right, starting off at one end, just an overall view of the greenhouse. It's still full, as there's quite a few being posted out again. I'm almost finished posting now. I have got some requests for February, mid-February posting because of all the snow outside. As we can see, we've got snow over the fields. It's been about 5 inches deep here. It's been like that for a week here now, and temperatures have been very low, -7, -9, -10. Fortunately, I've got good heating systems with the radiators under the benches, and all I look to hold is around about 45-50 degrees. I'm quite happy with that. Right, along the sides, a few more peppers starting to germinate. This is a very hot yellow one. This is a new leek a pal brought me. There's 6 on the bench here. It's meant to be a cross from the GSN to the 163. At the moment it looks very much like Yorkshire Giant, but we'll see how it goes. There's a few GSNs still waiting to be posted. I set some of my own onion seed. I ran short, so I set some a week ago. This is it popping through nicely. It's coming through very well. More peppers. They're very slow, these Mexican ones. I've just sown this today. These seeds just come. It's a Mexican jalapeno. Apparently it's very, very prolific, and it's a lot hotter than the ordinary jalapeno, so we'll try that. More onions popping through nicely. These are my own seed. These were set 2 days behind the others. What I'm going to do, they'll go on the new lights, so I'm dying to try these new lights out. I'll possibly make some space tomorrow, and I'll move the greenhouse around, tidy it up, get tidied up before I do the Zoom meeting. The vent nose come through very nicely now, still carrying its seed on the top. It's looking nice, quite a bit. The seed was obviously treated because it's blue seed, as we can see there. Still not good germination with the cabbage. I'm a little bit disappointed with that. And the rest is leeks and onions. Now I'm going to go around the greenhouse and show you as we go. On this side, these are blue. This is the Yorkshire blue originally. Moving down, these are all in cells here. This is all seedlings that I've set away. Right, we've got Cumbrian on the bench. They've had no light, and as you can see, they're very pale, and they've got plenty of virus in them, if we can see. As you can see, they are pale, and a lot of people say, you know, have I got thrip? There's no thrip on these at all. They are clean, they're sprayed regular. That's just natural for the Cumbrian at this time of the year. Moving along, we can see a different colour on these ones. These are also Cumbrian. These are the virus free. Now, this particular end of the virus free have had no lights at all, and they all start to go along. If I can show you planting there, there's a good length on there. There'll be 4.5 inches on that particular plant, which normally you wouldn't want to see in a greenhouse. Having said that, the Cumbrian is a little bit on the short side, so I was quite happy that they were making length. You know, I would have been happy if 1 or 2 had stayed like that, but that's one of the smaller ones. As they start to grow, you can see all the buttons are splitting naturally, so it's starting to drop back down, and it's happening. There's a one it's still fairly long, but the outer ones have split and dropped down themselves, so you can see by that. But if you take a look at the foliage, it's nice and clean, no virus on them. Now the 6 here, which were given a bit light, they were given 7 days in my growth cabinet next door, and you can see they've dropped down, and they look nice plants when they're short, but the Cumbrian, I'm only hoping that it actually makes a bit length again, so I may probably invent a few colours to go around these. Now these have only been potted up a fortnight. They're in 2 litre pots. They could do with going on into larger pots. As you see on the bottom of the tray, I have got saucers on there, and these will be watered from the saucers when they need it. Now it's difficult. If I look at that plant, it's a lot smaller and hasn't used the moisture out of the pot. Same there. But as we move along into the larger ones, they're dry on the top. They've all had the same amount of water, but it's because these are larger plants and they're actually taking more moisture up and growing on nicely. So that's a virus-free Cumbrian. Moving along, these are onions to fulfill a few orders later on. A few Betty Black. I've only done 6. They're looking quite nice. I'm happy with those. They're nice and short. This is a few of Peter Kerry's Blue. Again, I'm happy with those. I've potted 9 up. I'm going to grow one trench with 4 of more or less every variety alongside each other just to see how they perform. A few onions, these are quality onions, but I have potted them up at the back. They are now in 3 litre pots. They've only been up there a week and they're looking quite nice. I'm happy with them. I'll maybe try half of those under these new lights I've got, which I'm coming up to. These are the later set onions, and these were put in the growth cabinet, hence you can see a little bit burning on the tips. We do get that with the intense light because it gives heat off as well, the growth cabinet. The idea of the new LED lights, I'll not get the heat and hopefully it'll not burn. There's a small one there still to go up. This is the Viper Spectrolator. I'll just lift this up. This has fans inbuilt in it, so it must give a little bit of heat off. And it's a 600 watt. It has both a veg and a bloom side to it, so you can change the spectrum depending on what you're growing. So this is the Viper Spectra 600 watt LED. That's going down the bottom greenhouse, and it'll just bring any plants on that I need to down there. Moving along, some late set onions, a few blanch leeks, and then we'll move on to the everything in cells that's still being posted out. I'm almost on top of the orders, but there are orders coming in daily. Right, as promised, we'll take a look at the new lighting system. They come yesterday, they arrived yesterday. These are Maxi Bright Daylight Pro 660 watt. Size wise, they're approximately 1 meter by 1 meter. There's 6 bars. Look at the bars, 6 bars on each light, and they all have switches, dimmer switches, so we can have the light switched off completely. 25% power, 50% power, 75% or 100%. And I'll come in when it's dark tonight and we'll switch them on and let you see what they actually look like. I'm maybe a little bit late in the season for getting these, but as I say, they are here if I need to push any plants on, or young plants that I'm bringing back up here. We will, I'll put a few under here. I may try a few onions under and see how it pushes them on. Even the T5's now switched off, but the seedlings are coming along nicely. These are blanch leek seedlings, all off the pendle. Peter Kerry's growing the pot leeks, and I'm growing the blanch, and if he wants any of these, he can have some. I'm going to get 20 of the hybrid that he's bred this year, which is a GSN mother with the blue pollen added to it. So I'm looking forward to getting some nice ones off him. That's basically it. There's leeks on all the benches at the moment. We're starting to get just a little bit space, so I will be starting to pot up into larger pots, as the week goes on. Don't forget, as I say, I'll probably come back tonight. I've just learned how to link videos together, so I can come back tonight and we can do another little video showing you what the lights are like, the new lights are like. As I learn more about them, I will give it off over the YouTube. Don't forget, there's a Zoom meeting through the National Veg Society. I think it's going to be advertised through Facebook as well, but it's certainly on their site. Not 100% certain of the date, but I think it's going to be on a Tuesday evening, probably maybe 2 weeks, well, a week on Tuesday. I think there's a one on this Tuesday anyway, a Zoom meeting on bees. So log in and you'll learn a little bit about that. I'll be interested in that because I use bees out on the site. Great, thank you very much. See you tonight. Bye. Just a quick one. I'm back down the bottom. This is only going to take a minute. If you remember last week, we had fairly bad rust, which had actually dropped all its pustules down onto the compost, and I sprayed it with Signum last Sunday. This is the same leak. It's just to show you the rust is still there, but it's fading badly, or it's fading rapidly should I say, and it's all gone off the compost, so the Signum is starting to work. And I'll keep a track on this. I would think another 2 or 3 weeks and this leak will be nice and clean along with all the rest. Perfect. See you tonight. Bye. Hi, as promised, I've come out again. I'm going to go into the greenhouse and do some videoing of the lights to show you. I've tidied the greenhouse up and put a few different things. I'll explain when I get in. We'll have a look around. I've switched the lights on.
£21 a month. Search also Samsung S22.
$20.99 for first 6 months and
You can play music to the leaks. Right, I've got no other lights on anyway, as I say. I've put these ones on just so we can have a look. All the way along there. Put a picture on Facebook last night, and Nick Brake recommended that I actually drop the height of the lights. Because I'm going to have varied plants under here, I'm going to end up with some bigger stuff under. I thought some may burn, some may not, so I thought it's best to possibly raise the benches. So I've put some seedlings on, as you can see, just small ones. Some of the ones at the front of my own, that's just started to germinate. They are the last pen leeks that I set. If you remember going back in the videos, that was the beginning of January. They're growing nicely, but I'm just going to give them a little boost. There was, I think there's 4 cabbage seedlings come through there. That's the Cornish Giant. What I'll do, I'll grow those on and I'll actually keep them for seed and make sure we get some. I've put some small onions on, as you can see, and I've put some seedlings, Blanche Leek seedlings, the pendle on this end. That end, just the last of the few leeks that's been ready to post. I'll just show you. Right, they are Berwick, not very big. They are my pendle that I'm going to keep for myself, or some of them. But actually those smaller ones there, there's 10 there, and I've got a few on this side, these 8. They are the very late ones that I set, and as you can see, they're not big. They're only in 7cm pots. They're still very small, nowhere near the size of my finger, and that's going to be my main batch of Blanche leeks to go into my own trenches. Now, just to show you what the 2 different lights do, because these batch of seedlings here, I'll just pick a tree up and show you. These are Blanche leek seedlings. They actually look like pot leek seedlings, but these were put into the next door's growth cabinet, and they were in there for a week when they were younger plants. And because it's more of a blue light, the metal halide, it's kept them very short. So instead of looking like Blanche leeks, they look like pot leeks. But they will stretch, and under these lights they should revert back to the normal. Look at it. They're more of the traditional type, and as I say, that's what you would expect, but you can see the difference with the different kinds of light. So we'll see what happens. I think I'll probably keep this end light on for certainly 7 days, and I'm going to put them on 12 hours. Steve next door to me, he's an electrical engineer. He's going to rig them up where they come on if it's very dull and the sun doesn't shine, the lights will come on, and the maximum that can be on is 12 hours. He's going to rig an automatic system up for me, so that would be great. Anyhow, that's more or less it. What I'll do, as you see, we've got the dimmer switches. I'll just see what happens. Right, this is on 100% at the moment. I don't know if we'll be able to pick this up. That's 75, 50%. That's moved down. It may take a minute or two to happen, but I can definitely see it dimming this end. I can actually look at the light, whereas you can't further along. So I've got that on 25% and it's still good. So I suppose I could drop the lights very close like that, put them on 25% and slowly increase it. But that's on 25%. It's still an excellent light. Brilliant. I think that's all I need to show tonight. We will look in 7 days just to see how these have performed on 12 hours a day. Perfect. Thank you now. Bye bye.